listening to the Scoop Slam Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scoop Slam Podcast. We are back. We are 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, but before that, we've got to make a stop. AEW Dynasty was this past weekend, so we're here to break all that down and more. Plus, we've got the WrestleMania Madness Final Fatal 4-Way. Say that 3 times fast. So we're going to let you know what the greatest WrestleMania of all time is, as we saw Florida win the national championship this past weekend, who was in my bracket. But before we get too far into anything, as always, the co-host, the historian, he wears many hats around here. It's Ryan.
Yo, Micah, ready to get Styles Clash, kick out at 2.9, and scoop it, slam it, and talk about a little wrestling this week. We had a lot of wrestling this week, Mike.
Yeah. You forgot to get dropped on your head first, too.
Oh, okay. There's some glass down there. I can get dropped on that as well.
Yeah. But we got a lot of getting dropped on your head to talk about. But before we get too far into anything, I do have a big announcement. I said something about it last week, I believe, that we had some big plans coming up for WrestleMania season. Obviously, make sure you're following us on the TikTok because we do have a WrestleMania live stream planned the whole weekend. We're going to stream Saturday and Sunday. So make sure you're there for that. If you're not following already, it's going to be in the link tree in the description. But as well as that, next week on the show, we're going to have a special guest. If you are big on Twitter or if you pay a lot of attention to wrestling on Twitter, I'm sure you've heard of him. Ibu will be on the Scoop Slam podcast next week. So we're going to have him on. We're going to do a State of the Union, talk about a lot of hot button issues, topics in wrestling, especially because WrestleMania will be coming up that week. We can kind of have some Dynasty fallout on the show, Hall of Fame stuff, WrestleMania predictions. So if that interests you, make sure you tap into that because I think it's going to be a very fun episode and something a little different than we normally do. And we are excited to have Ibu on the show. But we got WrestleMania Madness to break down. The Fatal 4-Way for the final, Ryan. It's time to crown a champion. So in the Fatal 4-Way, if you haven't listened to the past couple episodes, the bracket is broken down there. But now we have the 1-seeded WrestleMania 17, the 20th seeded Cinderella team, WrestleMania 3, the 2nd seeded WrestleMania 19, and the 11th seeded WrestleMania 39.
Yeah, it was it was a tough choice. I gotta eliminate 2 off the back. That's WrestleMania 3 and WrestleMania 39. I just can't let these 2 go on any further. WrestleMania 3 did have one of the most talked about wrestling matches of all time with Hogan and Andre. Yes, rest of the card though, much to be desired as far as match quality wise. So get rid of WrestleMania 3. WrestleMania 39, maybe a little recency bias here. It was a great WrestleMania, all in all, but it just can't stack up to these last 2, WrestleMania 17, WrestleMania 19. Do you agree, Micah?
I agree. I also feel like, sometimes they say during March Madness that you just you get the easy draw. I would like to look at who WrestleMania 31 or 39 has had to go against. Because in the first round, it got WrestleMania 35, which I would argue is probably one of the worst WrestleManias of all time.
Yeah, that's fair.
The next match or the next round, it had WrestleMania 31, which I think is great. It's a good Mania, but it's not. It was the 6th seed. I think that's too high. I'd probably put it middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Now for it to beat WrestleMania 21 was a big one, but that was a big toss up. So I think it's had one real competitive match. But other than that, this is what we would call a cupcake team, a Mickey Mouse team for the Final Four.
Yeah, a Cinderella team, if you will. And the clock is striking midnight on WrestleMania 39. What about WrestleMania 3, Mike? You think I should have put it on a little further? I don't know.
You know, I think it had a great run. I think it's kind of funny because there's some discourse coming up about it now because WWE published like the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, and Hogan and Andre was number 8. And a
Oh,
lot of
that's
people,
crazy. Yeah, that's crazy.
well, a lot of people on Twitter were like, "Oh, this is insane. This match is awful." And it was
Oh,
like,
no. It was 12-year-olds in the comment section.
yeah, like if I saw someone encapsulate it perfectly. I wish I could remember his Twitter handle, and I would give him credit. But he said, when you first get into wrestling, you watch this match and you think, "Oh my god, this match is great," and then you keep watching wrestling for a while and you're like, "Oh, this match sucks." And then eventually, when you begin to like appreciate the history of professional wrestling, the match becomes great again because it is that pivotal.
Yeah. It's not the best worked wrestling match, but it didn't need to be. And
No,
it was the most iconic wrestling match. Like when you think of the WWE brand, there's certain moments, memories, and like iconic still frames that there is. And one of the most iconic frames, pictures, WrestleMania moments, if you will, Micah, is Hogan and Andre in the middle of the ring staring each other down, and it's Hogan lifting the giant above his shoulders and body slamming him in the 93,000 packed stadium, the Pontiac Silverdome. It's that moment.
yeah, and you know, but I think the thing that doesn't take it into the next, the upper echelon, the final, is just the rest of the card. You know, you've got 2 great finales, and that matters a lot. You know, you got Macho and Steamboat, Hogan, Andre, but it just doesn't compel you the entire way through like 17 and 19. So for the final, Ryan, the 2 WrestleManias that we have left, the 1 and the 2 seed, WrestleMania 17 versus WrestleMania 19.
I'm going WrestleMania 19, Micah. I think this show featured a mixture of the old timers and the new names. A show that legitimately has all of the Mount Rushmore stars of the last 40 years on it, with Hogan, Rock, Steve Austin, and I'm putting Brock on as my 4th Mount Rushmore. So all 4 members of Mount Rushmore, say that 3 times fast, on the same show. And fun fact, Micah, this is the main event of WrestleMania 19, Kurt Angle versus Brock, was the first WWE pay-per-view since December of 97 that did not feature Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, or Undertaker. Now, how crazy of a stat is that?
That is wild. And also, I mean, and it's kind of narrowly avoided because right under this, you got Rock and Austin.
Yeah, exactly. I just think, man, in the pantheon, the greats of all the WrestleManias, I was torn between 17 and 19 for a long time, Micah. But I think you got to place 19 at the head of the heap right here. When you put 17 and 19 both side by side, match quality by match quality, star power up against star power, there's never been a more stacked show than WrestleMania 19. And 17, it couldn't not be good because it was, WrestleMania at the end of the Attitude Era. They were hitting all the crescendos, hitting on all cylinders during that time, Micah. But Mania 19, it didn't really have a great build up because I went down a rabbit hole. I looked at all the online forums at the time, and a lot of people weren't so ecstatic about the product during this time. WWE didn't have the greatest creative at the time in 2003, and people were kind of, they didn't like the build up to Booker and Triple H, for obvious reasons, even back then. And there was a lot of uncertainty about the Kurt and Brock match going into it because Kurt had a lot of neck problems coming into that match, and people didn't know if he was going to compete or not. I believe the plan on the table at the time on the dirt sheets was that they were going to pivot to a Chris Benoit versus Brock Lesnar title match instead of a Kurt Angle Brock Lesnar. So man, it was just a lot of uncertainty going into that WrestleMania, and this WrestleMania had a very low buy rate, bro. It only had like 500,000 people that bought this pay-per-view compared to the 800,000 that they did the year before with WrestleMania 18, which didn't have a great card in comparison. But I think it exceeded all expectations the night of with just the main event star power that they had. They had at least 4 matches that could have legitimately headlined this event just by star power. Am I telling lies, Mike?
No, I don't think, not at all.
I mean, so for that reasons, I gotta put 19 as the greatest WrestleMania of all time.
I did want to bring that up, the buy rate, because that's a big like topic. That's always the asterisk besides 19 is
The stat
well, the
nerd.
buy rate was low and they didn't draw as much, but I think sometimes there's outliers. A lot of what wrestling is measured in is dollars and cents and people in the show, and I am fully on board with that. But that's not to say that sometimes you just have a bad outing, even though. But just because you have one bad outing does not make that event bad.
And just the people on that card, Micah. Like, you had Hogan and Brock Lesnar on that card. Hogan headlined the first WrestleMania, and Brock Lesnar, if he wanted to, if he came back during this WrestleMania season, he could have theoretically headlined this WrestleMania. So that just takes into effect how much rounds this star power stretches. So you can't do any better than WrestleMania 19, man.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly in the middle. Like legitimately, you have Brock who has main evented Manias in the 20s, and you've got Hogan who main evented pay-per-views in the 80s.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's hard. I do have to agree with you because I feel like there are no misses with 19. Like the biggest drawback is the buy rate, and if you have to go that far to go to a negative, then I think that speaks to the strength of the card and the star power and all that we talked about.
Well, maybe there was a little low on that card. Were you a big fan of the Miller Lite catfight girls, Mike?
I don't remember that.
Oh, they had a pillow fight live there at WrestleMania in Safeco Field. You didn't remember that, Mike?
I did not.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we won't bring that one up, but
okay, all right.
Plus, I think the ending of 17 is just a little drawback. You know what I mean? I think that leaves a bad taste in some people's mouth.
In hindsight, yeah.
But the champion of WrestleMania Madness, WrestleMania 19, and on the horizon is WrestleMania 41. We got some quick topics to talk about from SmackDown because we've got the entire Dynasty card to break down. But Ryan, I felt like it was worth mentioning because of all that's been going on online about it. The Tiffany Stratton Charlotte segment from this past week on SmackDown. Oh, buddy. There's a lot to unpack here. I don't know that we can get to everything just because of obviously the AEW pay-per-view, and we know how long those are. But very... I don't even know. Is interesting the right word? Train wreck would probably be the best word to use.
It definitely was. It was one of those things where you couldn't look away. I can't lie to you. I wasn't interested in the feud when Charlotte won the Rumble and then Charlotte chose Tiffy. But all the dirt sheets releasing stories saying that, oh, well, they're shooting on each other, brother. It's kind of worked on me, man. I'm interested in this feud now for all the wrong reasons. But I'm still interested.
I think that for what it's worth, I think that Charlotte did not get owned like people think that she did.
No, not at all.
And it did very much make me interested, like you said, because now I've got to know if this is actually going to work. Because Tiffany had awful boo-boo job face, if you know what that is. She looked like a kid who legitimately got her toy taken away. And she looked pissed, and she also looked scared of Charlotte because she said, "Woo!" as she was sitting the mic down and getting out of the ring, getting out of Dodge. So I don't know. It was the
she doesn't sound natural on the mic either.
Well, and that's what Charlotte tried to say, but the fans just wouldn't let her talk. But
yeah,
she's like you said, off camera or off mic, she sounds 10 times more like genuine and real than Tiffany does.
She does. She sounds like she's actually trying to have a conversation with Tiffy and actually has rebuttals to what Tiffy is saying, which a lot of the online internet wrestling community don't want people to have actual conversations to make it actually sound real. They want people to monologue and to pontificate like it's a Shakespeare novel or something. Man, I don't think that's a good promo, but I think how Charlotte is responding is how you would respond in an actual argument. You know what I mean, Micah?
Yeah. And it feels like Tiffany has these lines that she's been fed backstage as digs or things that she thought of before she went out there. It doesn't sound off the cuff. And there's nothing wrong with pre-planning what you're going to say. I do that here on the podcast. People do that all the time. But it just is the inflection in her voice. And Charlotte even said that. Your voice is so squeaky. And I mean that's real.
She sounds like she's cutting a promo in her mirror in the bathroom.
Yes.
You know? And when Charlotte pivots from the conversation and brings up something else, Tiffy just stays course and says the same thing that she has planned. It just doesn't feel natural, bro. I know Tiffy has her fan base online and in the arenas. But yeah, I don't think she's ready for prime time like this. Like a WrestleMania type feud with Charlotte, the woman that has carried the baton for the last 10 years in the women's division. I think Tiffy's getting outclassed on the mic, and I think people are tricking themselves into thinking that Tiffy's holding her own in these live promos. She is getting exposed. And the live audience booing Charlotte, man, it feels bad faith to me, man. Let's see what she has to say before we just start giving her the Hulk Hogan treatment, the Logan Paul treatment. Like, does Charlotte deserve that?
I don't think so. I've always been a bigger supporter of her.
What has she said online to get these dweebs online and a lot of the people in the arena just straight booing her? You would think she's Tessa Blanchard out there. Did she say something racist, Micah, and I'm not aware of?
Unless somebody knows something that I don't, not that I can remember. I think people are just sick of her coming back and immediately going for the title.
But that's not on her. How is that on her? Like,
exactly.
People keep that. Where's that same energy for Cena coming back in the title picture?
Yeah. Or any star. Like, I mean, that always happens. Like, Charlotte is just too big to me to be in the middle of just some random feud with, like, I don't know, name mid-card. Like if Charlotte was on the card at WrestleMania against Candice LeRae, that's not interesting. But Charlotte is money. Charlotte draws. And she's very talented. So I'm interested to see where this goes in terms of can these two work together. But I really wish that I could see Charlotte actually talk. Like I wanted to hear what she had to say.
Yeah.
And everybody was just like, "Oh, Tiffany cooked her." If you read body language and you understand what Charlotte's trying to get at, which is Tiffany is very rehearsed and Charlotte is a different level than her, Charlotte's point makes sense and Tiffany's proving that on her own.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe she cooked Charlotte if we just read the promo and not actually seen the promo, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe she did have some good points. But when she's out there, shaky voice, holding the title upside down and sounding like she's reading cue cards, she didn't cook Charlotte. What are these people? Are these people watching the same segments I'm watching?
I don't know, but we got another segment from SmackDown to talk about real quick as well. Punk, Roman, and Seth had a kind of episode-long story where Punk revealed that he was going to reveal the favor tonight to Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, and that led us to the main event, which was a very good segment between two wrestlers and a manager.
Whoa. An advocate.
And then there's Mr. Freakin' in the back, contributing absolutely nothing to the to the feud.
It'd been so much more interesting if we just got Roman and Punk 1-on-1.
Yes, especially, which, if you haven't seen SmackDown, the favor ended up being that Paul Heyman is going to be in the corner of CM Punk at WrestleMania, not the Tribal Chief.
Didn't I call this last week? Did I call this?
You did.
Okay, all right, there we go.
I think you might be on something. We were talking about the stocks earlier. You called this last week. I think you're a fortune teller. You might be a financial advisor, Ryan. We'll work on that.
I know.
Scoop slam your savings.
Okay.
But anyways, the segment, the main event segment of SmackDown, which makes sense because all these guys are, the biggest stars in WWE.
Yeah.
One of the funniest parts to me that I was talking about with Mr. Freakin' was he was trying to cut this promo on Roman, and the fans were just chanting, "What's the favor? What's the favor?" Like they cared 0% about what Seth Rollins had to say. They wanted to see Punk and they wanted to see Roman, and they did not care about Seth. And I just feel like if we could have got Paul as like the special guest referee in a one-on-one between Punk and Roman, like imagine that. You know what I mean?
Oh, man. Or a Paul in a pole match.
That could work. There's a tagline in that somewhere.
There you go.
But I just don't feel like Seth belongs here. And I thought this was great. Like, Paul is so good. He is the greatest manager of all time. And just his reaction, and Roman's like, his face is so emotive in these segments. And I get cracked up at the way that he looks. Like, one of my favorite parts. Oh, that too. And I wonder if it's the blue on the mat, or maybe he got new ones. I don't know.
Yeah, they shining though.
But one of my favorite parts of the promo was when Roman was like, "Wise man, tell him this isn't going to happen." And then like Heyman doesn't say anything, and Roman just slowly turned and looked at him. I was getting cracked up, man. Roman is so great, and Punk is too.
Heyman.
I don't see Heyman too.
Yeah.
I just don't see where Seth fits in this at all.
He's the spare prick at the wedding at this point. And this storyline overall, airtight, is great. They have long time history, all three guys. They have grievances all with each other. But the thing is, Mike, I'm not interested in a three-way match without any stakes.
Yeah.
Like, I've never been a fan of that. If there's no number one contendership on the line or no title on the line, why are we having this three-way for supremacy, or what's going on here?
Just to get a leg up on the guy.
All right. Okay.
I mean, I agree with you, and that's why I think one-on-ones make much more sense.
Yeah.
Without a title or a stakes, because you can just have beef with one guy, and you can have beef with multiple guys, but a triple threat always feels like this, and it's the same way with the women's championship right now, or the women's world championship, whatever. With Bianca and Rhea and Io, it's like Bianca and Rhea have a real issue, and Io just kind of feels there. And I feel like that's hard to avoid with a triple threat, but why are there so many multi-man matches when you could have had storyline of the year with Roman and Punk?
And them inserting Seth into this whole three-way element, it's got me worried, Mike. Got me very worried. Because they could have easily just left him off this WrestleMania. Big stars have been left off the WrestleMania card before. Seth had 2 main event matches last year, so him taking this Mania off wouldn't have been that big of a deal. I'm worried that they're inserting him just so they can give him a win at Mania.
Oh God.
Or they have Heyman turn his back on Roman and CM Punk and align himself with Seth, which would be so. I just wouldn't like that at all, man.
I thought
It would
about
be a
that too.
shocking moment. It'd be shocking, but would it be? Would you be interested in seeing that? I mean, I guess it would make Seth more interesting, but I don't know, man. I just don't like Seth at this point, man. I don't know. Just have him go away for 6 months.
I think it would be interesting from the standpoint of I wouldn't have to hear him talk.
Okay.
But if Paul is going to split from anybody, he should go with Braun Breaker. That right there is the no-brainer. Or Oba or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like another monster, just absolute dominator. I just don't. I don't feel that way with Seth. Heyman would make it work. Heyman always makes it work, unless your name's Curtis Axel. But
Or Ryback.
or Ryback. But I don't get that same perfect match feeling with Seth and Heyman. I really hope that's not what they do.
So Roman lost his bloodline, lost his championship, lost his wise man. Roman's hitting rock bottom here soon? What's going on? Oh, are we gonna get Rock involvement at WrestleMania? Maybe he costs Roman the match. We get that. Maybe a
Maybe.
year-long build-up to the next WrestleMania.
Maybe. I really don't know. Because if Heyman does leave Roman, where does Roman go after that? I mean, do you put him and Seth together again?
They need a big moment for that main event, in my opinion. Something that nobody sees coming. So Rock getting involved, that would be a big moment. Heyman turning his back on Punk and Roman, that would be shocking. A big moment. I would have to see how they do it for me to say that it would be a success. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
Michael, one more question before we move on. Why do finishers in promo segments have so much more devastating impact on the individual getting hit with that finisher?
I don't know. That kind of came up last week too, because Cody hit Cena with one crossroads and he was just out cold.
And Seth took 4 GTSs in that cage match and he was good to go. But Roman take 1 and my tribal chief is down, looking like a Peter Griffin after he got to a fight with the chicken, I don't know.
That's such a great still image, like burned in my mind.
Wrestling logic. I don't know.
But overall, 10 out of 10 home run segment. This is the kind of stuff we've been clamoring for WrestleMania. I'm finally glad that we're getting some of it. We should have been getting it a month ago. But Ryan, we got a pay-per-view this weekend to talk about. We are already knee deep into this show, so we're probably going to have to fly through some of these smaller matches. But to start us off for AEW Dynasty, we have Will Ospreay versus Kevin Knight in an Owen Hart Cup match. This is my first time seeing Kevin Knight. I thought, he looks good in there. I need to see some mic work, obviously, because we talked about this off camera too. Everybody's a good wrestler there. Everybody in WWE is a good wrestler. So you got to have something to differentiate yourself. And I need to see that from Kevin Knight, but this was kind of a typical Ospreay match.
Yeah, pretty much. It went 13 minutes, Micah. It didn't need to go that long. I'm not a fan of them having a new guy that you're supposed to get behind go against another top baby face and they immediately lose in their second match on the roster. I'm just not a fan of that. Kevin Knight, I mean, he's a good athlete. I don't see him going anywhere further than a TNT title just by what we've been shown. And he got no vignette building them up. Or if he did, they were very short. So I don't know what he's all about as far as gimmick-wise. Young Cat, I think he's announced for the he has a dual contract with New Japan and AEW, so we'll probably not see him much on AEW going forward. But yeah, it's went 13 minutes. Very predictable. Didn't need this match on the card. This could have been on Collision.
Well, not to mention that, and I really don't like the fact that they bring people in and then they just make them lose, and there's some more of that on this card, obviously. But that's just a personal pet peeve because it kind of teaches me that you think of somebody already in a lower tier just based off
Yeah.
your booking, and it's hard to overcome that. We'll get to that with the Tony Storm match, but
And,
yeah,
and one more
Kevin and I have.
one more thing, Micah. I just looking by past instances of this happening, having a guy come in and rub shoulders with a top guy and having them lose to that top guy doesn't make that new guy made man. I mean, look at Action Andretti. Has he been on any show since he's beaten Chris Jericho that one time 2 years ago? Wasn't he a made man after that? What happened?
Oh, that's what they said. They said Jericho was the most selfless man in wrestling.
There you go. Yeah, but we move on.
So next up, we've got for the AW Tag Team titles, the Hurt Syndicate versus Big Bill and Brian Keith. And you know, this feud got off to a rousing start last week. We talked about on the pod where MVP just absolutely cut these guys' nuts off. But the match to me was better than I expected. The Hurt Syndicate very over. Their song gets chanted, unlike most people who have piped in chants. Looking at you, Mercedes. But they got a great reaction coming out. I felt bad, but MVP is so great. I don't know if you caught this, Ryan, but he was on commentary, and he was like, you know, there's a big difference between a guy like Taz and a guy like Brian Keith. Or he said something about Brian Keith being small. That's what it was. And Taz was like, well, I'm offended as a man who's also small. And he was like, there's a difference between Taz and Brian Keith. And I was like, man, he's just burying this guy right in the middle of his match.
It wasn't even just that, though, Micah. Even on the commentary, yes. But even in the ring, Brian Keith didn't get no offense on Shelton or Bobby, which he shouldn't have, because look at Brian Keith and look at Shelton and Bobby. But it was basically a Brian Keith squash match. Did you get that from watching it just like I did?
Oh yeah, Big Bill was a star, and I think he still has star potential. But it was like, we'll work with this guy. You stay over in the corner.
Yeah, they basically just whooped that for about 10 minutes, which the match did go 10 minutes. Let me ask you this one thing before we move on, Mike, because this was kind of a nothing match. Could have been on Collision, which is a theme of this whole pay-per-view. Are the Hurt Syndicate the best group going in pro wrestling? Because I think they are.
Yes, I agree, because I was going to counter that point with something that I wrote down, which is I think MVP is a top 5 hire in AEW history.
Oh, dang. All right. I can't dispute that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I really don't know anybody else in AEW, group-wise, that has any kind of momentum or that I care to, like the Death Riders, I don't care to see. The Elite, if that is about to get rehashed, I definitely don't care to see. The Bloodline has kind of fizzled out, so I'm not interested in them. The Hurt Syndicate right now is extremely compelling. I would love to see Bobby get, a singles title as well, or the addition of MJF, which was an element in this match too. They're compelling. I want to watch Dynamite to see what the Hurt Syndicate has going on, and that is the thing that AEW needs right now.
Yeah, I agree.
The last couple things I had, I hope Big Bill gets away from Chris Jericho. MJF is being revitalized by the Hurt Syndicate, and yeah, I think overall it was a good match. The guys did what they were supposed to do. Nothing egregious, but like you said, could have been on Dynamite. And I wanted to say this as well. Is this the most filler AEW pay-per-view you think we've had up to this point?
Yeah, bro, because they put so many of these Owen Hart tournament matches on here, these quarterfinal matches. Why are we putting quarterfinal matches on the pay-per-view? That is something that you should be saving for the weekly television show. And it wasn't like this was a toss-up of oh man, either guys could win or either girls could win this match. No, this was all predictable. Did we do predictions for this show? I don't think we did, but if we did, Man, we could have got everything right on this card. Maybe the main event we probably would have disagreed on, but everything was just so predictable, and it lasted 5 hours, and everybody kicked out of everything, which I have come to peace with, Micah. I've accepted the fact that there's gonna be a lot of kickouts. There's gonna be so many kickouts, but man, it's just so boring to watch when everybody kicks out of everything, and you know it's not gonna be the finish because they got to go 15 more minutes where they kick out of everything else. But
Yeah, it's
yeah.
I agree. I've started to kind of just not mention some of the things that bother me because I feel like I'm running around in circles saying the same thing. Like, how many times a guy gets dropped on his head, or how many finishers, like you said.
How much blood?
How much blood? So I have to put different lenses on when I watch AEW. That does not mean that I'm going to not call out the things that I see, because we call a spade here on the Scoop Slam podcast.
We do.
But there's no point in me saying that, oh, well, this pile driver was dumb because they're going to do 3 in the main event. So, needless to say, I do think this was a very, like, Cyber Tuesday esque pay-per-view.
Taboo Tuesday, I have you know, that was a goated pay-per-view. You didn't like Taboo Tuesday back in the day?
I did, but I'm just saying, it's one of those, like, Night of Champion. It's just It's just there.
It's just there. One more thing before we move on. Because I mean, we spent way too long in this match, but you know, the people online, the IWC, talk about, oh man, the Fed fumbled Ricochet, or the Fed fumbled by not giving Kevin Knight a developmental contract. No, actually, the WWE fumbled when it came to Bobby Lashley, because this guy, he still is money, man. And I think for the first time, Shelton Benjamin actually looks like an equal to Bobby Lashley. Like, these two together look like destroyers.
Yeah, I don't think it's ridiculous to say that this is the most interested I've been in Shelton Benjamin since the gold standard.
Yeah, he doesn't have to do much, man. MVP, like you said, top 5 here in AEW history.
I mean, legitimate, like, he gets everybody over. Like, he adds so much. Yeah, well, I mean, can you blame him? He adds so much to the interest. And I find myself, like I said, I seek out what they're doing every week. Even if Bobby and Shelton aren't involved, like with the MJF stuff, it's interesting. I've got to know what's going to happen. But I agree. Bobby Lashley, definitely a fumble. For the people saying that WWE fumbled Kevin Knight because they wanted him to go to training, that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. Everyone goes to training, unless you're like AJ Styles. Like, they were mad because they wanted him to go to a tryout. I'm sorry, when you got your job, did you have to go to a job interview? I thought so.
Exactly. Who do you think he was?
Exactly. I mean, he's not AJ Styles. Like, I don't know what everybody was thinking was going to happen.
Jacob Fatu went straight to the main roster, but that's Jacob Fatu. And, I mean, you know, we just met Kevin Knight, so I'm not going to just bury him right out the back. But look at Kevin Knight, look at Jacob Fatu.
Exactly. Next up, we've got for the TBS Championship, Mercedes Moné versus Julia Hart.
Oh, God.
This is probably the breath in, breath out match. I don't really know even what to add here. It was a fine back and forth. There was nothing egregious. I thought that the crowd got behind Julia pretty good, bigger than I was expecting, especially because Mercedes is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. But I thought the finish was a little flat, and it could have been 5 minutes shorter.
Yeah, the crowd, the IWC online, you know, all unanimously hating on Charlotte because she doesn't put anybody over. Like, she doesn't lose any matches. However, Mercedes is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. She's always putting women over. Like, who has she put over since she has came to this organization, Mike?
I don't think she's lost, has she?
No, she's undefeated. But apparently she's putting everybody over by, when somebody hangs with somebody for 15 minutes, Micah, and they kick out of everything, that means they're automatically made. Apparently,
is that
online.
so?
That's what the AEW sickos tell me. I don't know. You're made. You're a
Interesting.
made man if you last 20 minutes with a top star and kick out of all their finishers. That makes you made.
Again, well, I'm just gonna start saying I'm pointing to the sign, the Action Andretti sign. Did that work for him? No. Okay. But yeah, not really much to say. Next up, which I think is probably the most interesting angle coming out of this pay-per-view, rated FTR versus the Death Triangle, Pac, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta. I'm not gonna lie.
It was all right.
It was solid. I kind of had it on in the background because I'm not very interested in Cope. I was looking at my phone, while this was happening.
It's crazy, man. You were such a big fan when we started this podcast of Edge when he came back. And now you just giving him the full Moxley treatment, bro. Has he fell that far in your pecking order?
I just don't think he's done anything to make me want to see him. Like,
yeah,
it's all past glory, and that's fine and great up to a certain point. Eventually, you've got to give me something else. And I was interested in him in the Judgment Day when that really kicked off. And I thought that, if they went heel, it was different and this could have been good. And then they kicked him out of it in like a month or whatever it was. And that spun off and became its own thing. But he doesn't put anybody over. And the Moxley stuff, the Malachi stuff, the Christian stuff, I don't find a reason to care about him at AEW at this point. So yeah, I've soured on him. It's no fault of my own. Same with FTR. I have not been very interested in them. Some of that's the booking. Some of that is, the comments that we've talked about. Dax likes to say online, and the Death Triangle. I think I'll save all comments for the main event. But I thought that the angle at the end was excellent. I was a huge fan. That made me look up from my phone and really pay attention to what was going on. And coming out of this, I've got to go watch Dynamite because I want to see what FTR is going to say.
Yeah, do you think that FTR needed this heel turn more than Cope needed this heel turn? So I think Cope needed it more.
That's a good question.
Don't you think Cope needed the heel turn more? Bro, I haven't been interested at all in Edge. I've never been a big fan of Edge, but when he did come back, I'm not gonna lie, Micah. When he came back at the Rumble, I was excited in the moment. I got lost in nostalgia, but let's compare it to CM Punk's return, because they both returned around the same time, right? Punk came back in 21, Edge came back in 2020. Look at the difference with match quality, with promos, with just general interest in their gimmicks and their characters. CM Punk compared to Edge. Look at the difference here.
Yeah, I mean, Punk was immediately extremely interesting in AEW. If he went back now, I think he would be more interesting in AEW than Edge would be currently.
And he actually takes pins. He actually puts people over. What a concept, huh?
Yeah.
He put the right people over, too. You didn't see him jobbing for Action Andretti. I know we were just bearing Action Andretti this whole show.
Well, I mean,
hope he's not listening.
It's not him. It's more of the fact that everybody... Yes, the idea of him. It insists upon itself.
Okay, all right.
But it's more what happened and everybody's response, because that's the go-to. Oh, well, he was in the ring with him, so that put him over. No, it didn't. And it's the same. WWE tries to do the same crap when they make Cody Rhodes face Carmelo Hayes, and then you just realize they're not on the same level.
Yeah, I agree. But I agree.
I do agree with you. I think Cope could have used a heel turn. However, selfishly, I'm more interested in FTR. And I know that we both know that this is building to FTR versus Edge and Christian because they're such big friends. But Cope needs
Edge and Christian as baby faces? That just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, I think Christian could use a turn too.
Does he?
I mean, I was all for the heel turn, but it has turned.
But Edge has been back 5 years to this point. He's been babyface maybe a month or 2 months out of that whole time.
Or you mean
And
heel?
heel. He's been heel 2 months out of that whole run. So I think he's due, man. He just and this whole match up. It felt like they were going for a heel turn, weeks prior to this. Again, so predictable with the heel turn at the end.
Yeah. Not to mention too, and then we can move on. Edge's best work has always been as a heel. Why is the babyface run so pushed on us?
I don't know. Since contract, maybe does what he wants. He does what he wants.
But maybe Cope will take some time off, and we can't mention.
He just came back. He just came back.
Oh, did he come back on Dynamite tonight?
No, remember he broke his leg. He just came back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he just like 2-3 months ago he came back.
Dang, he already feels stable.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he should be gone for a very long time.
Well, speaking of long times, next up we've got Toni Storm versus Megan Bayne for the AEW Women's Championship.
It went 15 minutes, by the way.
Yeah. There's a lot here. There's a lot here to break down. This is, I think, the first match that I've really watched of Megan Bayne's.
Let me ask you something before we get going, Micah. Why is Penelope Ford paired with Megan Bayne? Have we gotten answers there? Did I miss a segment? Because I've been watching Dynamite every week. Is something on Collision I'm not privy of? What's going on?
I'm not 100% sure. I was going to say maybe we missed it.
No, because we didn't miss it because I was watching this match too, Micah, and Excalibur brought up on commentary how, we still don't have answers about why Penelope Ford aligned herself with Megan Bayne. So they don't even know. Why is this a thing? Both women dated. Both women dated Joey Janela. Are we just getting? Is this the bridge to bring back Joey Janela? Is that we're doing?
Wait a minute. Whoa,
I'm just saying, Mike. It's possible.
No, Megan Bayne?
Yeah.
Dated Joey Janela?
Oh no, pal. She's dating him right now. Penelope Ford is the one that did. Yeah.
No, well.
Yeah.
What did Lil Wayne say in that clip when they were talking about the greatest rappers? Shout out Gucci, shout out Joey. Like, I mean, I'm happy for him, but boy, that don't add up.
Yeah, maybe. I'm keeping comments to myself. But
before we turn a little, don't get all rated R like your boy Xavier Woods.
There you go. I'm being honest here, Micah, or genuine when I ask this question. Is this a bridge to bring back Joey Janela? Because that's the only connection they have. That's it. They're Eskimo sisters. That's it.
Eskimo sisters. I wouldn't say that it's out of the realm of possibility.
Be something.
I kind of missed him, honestly. Not like I missed him. I missed his era in AEW. Let me rephrase that.
You didn't miss anything, pal.
But speaking to the match, Megan Bayne, I think, is a star, 100%.
Yeah.
I am shocked that WWE has not gotten her before this point, and then I heard or read that she was like basically a development hire for AEW. So that's interesting. I definitely think she will be in Stamford at some point in her career because she has the WWE mold. She is very big, not in a derogatory way, but she is just large. She makes Candice LeRae. Yeah, she would make Candice LeRae look like a 10-year-old.
Well, yeah.
And I thought her work was actually pretty good too. I didn't really notice any like major holes or that she was clunky or there was any like bad miscommunication. So Megan Bayne, really a fan of. What I was really not a fan of, Ryan, was the fact that she kicked out of 4 finishers, and then Tony went for the pin, and then she kicked out at 1.
Yeah, and they do this way too often, bro. Like, didn't we see? We just saw this in the match. What was that match at the last AEW pay-per-view where the jabroni kicked out at 1? Was it
Fletcher
Omega?
and Osprey?
No, I think it was Omega. He kicked out at 1 and he started pounding the mat because that's fighting spirit, Micah. But I don't know, man. When they do, I can understand this maybe once every 8 months, every 2 years that they do a kick out at 1. But when you do it every month, it loses this value. It loses this. I don't know. It doesn't put the guy or gal over when everybody's doing it. And now, Micah, you booked yourself into a corner because where do you go from here? You push Megan Bayne so fast, so hard, and you didn't go all the way with her, and you think you protected her by letting her lose in a roll-up? Huh? Can you imagine if Brock Lesnar got that title shot against Rock at SummerSlam and Rock rolled up Brock in a victory roll and beat Brock Lesnar right there? How would that have looked? Like, you have nowhere to go from there. You got to go to the bottom.
And that was the exact example that I had also had.
No,
I'm for real.
Looking at my notes again. What are you doing?
Why would you build her up and bring in this giantess and have her lose in her first match to Toni Storm, who people glaze?
Not even a roll-up, Micah, that makes you like a goober because you just kicked out at 1. You just kicked out at 1 to Toni Storm's finisher. And you lose in finishers. And you lose in a roll-up? Huh? Hey, bro, I can understand. Look, if they would have put her over like you remember Undertaker and Kane at WrestleMania 14? I think it was one of Kane's first matches. They didn't have Undertaker roll up Kane. He would have lost all aura, lost all presence if he got rolled up like it wasn't nothing. They protected him by having Undertaker hit him with 3 tombstones and pinning him.
Yes.
That would have been something at least, but when she loses in a roll-up and you pushed her so hard and gave her a title match so soon, you have nowhere to go after this. And we'll see what they do with her, but I got a very bad feeling that she's about to get Camille'd, and we don't see much of Megan Bayne after this, which is a shame. Because she does have something. She'll be in the WWE, I'm sure, in the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, it's just crazy. There's no if Toni would have been here with 4 finishers, then cool, I can buy that. Like, you got hit by 4 finishers, it was your first title match, like whatever. But a roll up, and I personally, the great thing about wrestling is you don't have to put somebody in this match. If you don't want to take the title off Toni yet, let Megan Bayne have feuds for 6 months and then put her against Toni Storm and smash her over and let Megan Bayne have like a year-long title run. But instead, AEW has this thing where they bring in somebody, and we just talked about it with Kevin Knight. They bring somebody in and they lose. And now all of Megan Bayne's credibility is lost. And I'm not saying everybody is Goldberg or everybody is Brock Lesnar, but
no, but when you look so different from the rest of the roster, you have to capitalize on that, man. And she had everything going for her. That if you was to put the title on her in this match, I would have accepted that.
Yes, 100%. I thought that was where they were going once she kicked out of 4 finishers.
Yeah.
Because how else do you finish the match? And then they did finish it, and it wasn't good.
Screwdriver, hammer.
Oh, yeah.
Those. They got those in their arsenal. That, they use that later.
Anyways, just a big whiff, man. Megan Bayne is a star. She'll be a world champion eventually, don't get me wrong. But this was the time to strike, or not at all. They could have kept her undefeated for 6 months and then put her over. And if the ladies in the back have a problem with it because she's a newcomer, well, you know who's writing the checks? Tony. I mean, sorry. Next up, another Owen Hart eliminator match, or semifinal, whatever. Quarterfinal, there we go. Kyle Fletcher versus Mark Briscoe. Another thing too, sorry. Tony Storm literally got beat down for like 10 minutes straight of that match, and then just miraculously, her finisher bar was charged up. Anyways.
Hey, you fed Shield. That's fighting spirit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, the pedophile in me is coming out. Next up, though, Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe. Like you said earlier.
It was a good match, but it went 16 minutes.
Who was going to win?
Yeah, and it went 16 minutes.
Yeah.
And they kicked out of everything.
It was like the third longest match on the card.
Oh, yeah. It was. Actually, it was the fourth longest match because we got some long ones coming up.
Oh, fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. It went on forever, and this could have been on Collision.
Yes.
But Mark looked, he played the babyface role well. Fletcher, hey man, I'm starting to come around to Fletcher. I
wrote the same thing. I actually am starting to like him.
Stop. Hey, what are we doing? Are we just exchanging notes before the show? What's going on
here? Hey man, when the spades got to be thrown,
we throwing the same spades, man. Oh, you think Fletcher could be a breakout star?
I really do. I don't think it's crazy. He needs a little mic work, but Don's there. Don's a little goofy to me. But if Fletcher can pick up some solid mic work, like I don't think it's crazy to say AEW World Champion in the future. Not at all.
He would be so much better if he was in the Hurt Business. And I know that doesn't. I'm just he's not. Well, he's not that demographic, but he would fit in well, man, with the Hurt. You put him in a suit, you have MVP talk for him. He looked like $1 million, man. Yeah. I know, all the IWC and all the sickos online comparing him to a young Randy Orton. He could be that, but he's got to get out of his own way and not fall into the bad habits that a lot of the AEW guys make. I could see him being a main event star in WWE.
Oh yeah,
and in AEW. I think one of the best decisions Tony Khan made is to drop in, the Garcias and the Jungle Jacks and what was that other jabroni that was the pillar of AEW at the beginning?
Sammy Guevara. Oh my God!
Dropping those jabronis and having Takeshita and Fletcher as your new pillars. That was a great decision. I don't know what took him so long, but great decision.
Well, that along with the fact that kind of the criticism with AEW, and we talked, Cope, Mox is in the main event, and we'll talk about how they are kind of in a holding pattern because of that. But there's a lot of former WWE guys here that are kind of not necessarily the flag bearers, but the more interesting acts in AEW. And Fletcher and Takeshita are guys that I can buy against them. I can buy Bobby versus Kyle Fletcher, or, like you said, Kyle with the Hurt Business.
Yeah.
I can't buy Sammy Guevara against Bobby Lashley because it looks like Bobby Lashley would Conquest rip him in half. It would be like Kid Omni-Man versus Conquest. So, all in all, good voice crack there for you. All in all, Kyle Fletcher, I do think he has money. I also think Mark Briscoe has money, and it's crazy they haven't capitalized. He is so charismatic. The people want to root for him.
He's just there to take the pins in these tournament matches. It seems, why does he get all these opportunities in these tournaments when he never wins?
I don't know.
Why is MJF not in this tournament? How does that make any sense? MJF said in a promo a few weeks back that he wants the Triple B back. But he didn't.
Or
He didn't declare himself for the tournament, which a lot of guys were on TV. They declared themselves for the tournament. Why didn't MJF declare himself for the tournament? Or why didn't Bobby Lashley declare himself for the tournament?
yeah.
Why did Mark Briscoe get a spot in this tournament?
Or why does Mark Briscoe always have to eventually face the Ospreys and the Omegas and the like? He always ends up facing somebody bigger than him, and it's just an automatic. I know Mark Briscoe isn't gonna win, and it's sad because Mark, you literally can't ask for much more to make somebody interesting.
Yeah,
the noises he makes when he dives, he has the look like the airport look. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, if you passed him in the airport, you could be like, that guy kind of looks like a crackhead or a professional wrestler. And there's a line in between that sometimes.
There you go. I don't have a problem with Mark Briscoe at all. I think he's great. But when they put Mark Briscoe, the guy that hasn't won any singles matches on Dynamite, in a tournament match, a very high profile tournament match, that's where I got a problem. The same thing with Brody King. Brody King hasn't won any one-on-one matches. Why is he in this tournament?
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
They need somebody to take the pin, and their stars aren't going to do it. That's why MJF and Bobby and all them aren't in here.
But then we come into shows like this, Michael, where every match is predictable. That's a problem. Like, you shouldn't be able to predict all these matches on the card, man.
Oh, I agree. And then the one that you would really think was a lock, the main event, is the one that just kidding. We're going to pull the rug out from under you.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. I do want to add, we were talking a lot about Fletcher's strengths and that he's rehabbed his image. I need him to get away from the Osprey school of selling, where he just manages to make it through everything and nothing hurts him, and getting dropped on his head is fine.
and turn his back to his opponent, to point the ropes, to run at the ropes. I don't like that either.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I think Kyle's got a bright future. Next up, we've got, for the Ring of Honor World Championship, Chris Jericho versus Bandito, the barn burner.
I could not believe this was on the card, man. We were almost 4 hours in at this point. Why was this not on Final Battle or whatever? Super Card of Honor. Isn't that their show they do before Mania?
Yeah, but they canceled it.
Okay, well, they should have canceled this match too, because this went 18 minutes, and the crowd did not care. The crowd did wake up when Bandito did that one-arm suplex spot, but it was so ridiculous because he kept Jericho up there for a whole minute and a half. And Jericho didn't kick his legs. He didn't try to punch him or nothing. He just stood there, or just floated there, I guess, and just allowed it to happen.
Yeah, that was probably the most ridiculous spot of the night, in my opinion.
And Bandito, I know he gets a lot of people online love Bandito, sing his praises. It might just be the sickos and the 12 people that watch ROH weekly. But in this match with Jericho, I didn't see it, man. I was looking for it. I was looking for something to impress me, to stand out from the rest of the luchadors that they have on the roster. And if I was a new fan, Micah, and somebody showed me a Bandito match and somebody showed me a Gravity match, I wouldn't be able to tell either apart. Does Bandito do anything that's flashy to you that stands out from the rest? Man,
No,
I think El Grande Americano over there.
I kind of somewhat wrote the same thing. This was very long, and I'm not particularly impressed with his size. Like, Jericho is not the biggest guy, and Bandito's smaller than him, but he's a little bulky, but just like height-wise, not very tall, which is fine for the luchadors, but I didn't think he was a clean worker. Like, there was a lot of bobbles or like missteps where it was like his footing wasn't right, and having to adjust the mask constantly. I don't get the hype behind him.
Maybe the lights were a little too bright because this is his first pay-per-view, at least singles match pay-per-view that he's had in AEW. So Yeah, maybe the lights were a little too bright. Like you said, a lot of botches in this match. Jericho looks like garbage. Just so bad.
Yeah.
He's tainted his legacy since 2021. He should have retired a long time ago. But we're gonna get more Jericho nonsense on the shows. We're gonna get more Jericho comedy, which he loves to do. And his matches, he's slow, he's plotting, and he just doesn't look good out there. And we got one of the worst finishes of all time. Like, do you want to walk us through this? Because I got comments.
I'll actually let you because I don't really remember the finish.
Okay. Well, let me lay it out for you. I'm just doing this by memory. I don't have this wrote down anymore. But Jericho and Bandito, after 18 minutes of very long, very plotting wrestling raps, as they say, Jericho pulls out a bat. Floyd the bat. And the referee is distracted by the bad apple. Like, the man who got his ass whooped earlier by the Hurt Syndicate, which, I mean, he just shook all that off and raced all the way down there to distract the referee, Bryce Remsburg. And Jericho took the bat and clocked him being Bandito, in the head with a metal baseball bat and pinned him. 1, 2, 3. The crowd, shocked, as I was. Oh, finally, unpredictable finish. We're going to get to see Bandito out of match. That's okay. So that's something. Give us something after watching that long, terrible Jericho match. Give us something to look forward to. Maybe we get to see what Bandito looks like. Okay, all right. We don't get to see a unmasking very often in this day and age. Well, Bandito's family, Micah, which they were on the last pay-per-view, on the buy-in, the 0 hour. What was last pay-per-view's name? What was it? Revolution. Okay, all right. They were on the 0 hour, Revolution, Bandito's family, and they made another appearance here in this match. They were at ringside, and they started pleading their case to referee Aubrey Edwards, which she was in the back during this whole match, Micah. In the back. You would assume she's in the gorilla position in the back, right?
You would hope.
Where there are TVs in the gorilla position, right, Micah?
Should be.
Yet Aubrey Edwards came down here, did not know what happened, took Bandito's families, took their plea, and actually went and looked for the foreign object that Bandito's family was pleading their case for that Jericho used. So they pointed out the bat to Aubrey Edwards. And therefore, because Aubrey Edwards saw a bat at ringside, she then told Bryce Remsburg to restart the match because it had to be used by Chris Jericho, even though they did not see Chris Jericho use the bat. So they restarted the match. And as soon as they restarted the match, Micah, Bandito hit his finisher, popped up like nothing happened to him, like didn't just get hit with a metal baseball bat, and he pinned Jericho. 1, 2, 3. So dusty finish, the worst dusty finish I've ever seen, happened in this almost 20-minute long nothing ROH match that nobody cared about.
Yeah, that does ring a bell now that I...
But Micah, that's ridiculous because that's never happened in the history of professional wrestling that a referee not in the match that did not see what happened in the match came out to restart the match
at the behest of the other wrestler's family.
Yeah, and they just took their word for it. Oh, okay, must be true. Let's restart it. Why didn't that happen in the main event? Why didn't Aubrey Edwards come out in the main event and restart the match? It's clearly interference, Micah.
We'll get to what they were going for the main event, though.
Okay, well, one more thing, Micah. Why didn't they being whoever's booking this show, why didn't they announce that there's no interference in the match like they did for the Garcia-Adam Cole match later on? No interference allowed.
That is a point that I was getting to with that one as well. That is the most ridiculous thing. Oh, 100%. And it's probably Jericho, and he's got his ideas, and that's what they're going with.
He can't put anyone over regularly. He just can't. He can't do it one-on-one. He can't do a regular job. It has to be shenanigans. It has to be a dusty finish. It has to be a Jeff Jarrett-like finish in the height of TNA when Jarrett was winning all those matches with interference, all those ref bumps. Jericho has to have something like that to put somebody over. And this was a long match. And I
think if him, Moxley, and Cope had a triple threat, that a black hole would open up.
Oh,
so that just the powers of that doesn't work for me, brother. Would just rip a hole in the space-time continuum.
Add Mercedes and Miro, and
yeah, there we go. Yeah, I don't know. It's ridiculous, and I was gonna say that about Bandito too. I don't know how much I can discredit him because he's also having to work with Jericho. So I'm willing to give Bandito another chance, but I'm not exactly over the moon about the guy. It's Ring of Honor, whatever. Yeah. Did it deserve a spot on this card?
No,
not the main card.
Apparently, there was some backstage chatter about the finish and the fact that there was travel issues with Bandito's family. A lot of people were saying that Bandito's family didn't approve of the finish. But hey, man, if I'm flying you out here, you're gonna play ball. I don't care what you do.
Oh yeah, what would they not like? Well, they probably didn't like that Jericho wouldn't put him over.
You could just put him over. But no, we got to go through all these hoops, and we got Bandito's new ROH World Champ. Good job for those
next up,
people on Fightful.com that watch ROH. I'm happy for them.
Yeah. I did remark, good to see another belt off Chris Jericho. For the TNT Championship, next up, we got Daniel Garcia versus Adam Cole. What you just mentioned was there's no interference in this match allowed, which, there's no interference ever allowed. That's the point of the rules. But thanks for telling me that everything is fake, just stupid. It's the same way with that stupid Continental tournament that they run at the end of the year, and they're like, "Oh, this is about pure graps, no cheating." Well, it's always supposed to be no cheating, you numb nuts. Like that's the whole point of a regular singles match.
Yeah, it puts heat on the organization because you have this power to ban this interference, yet you don't do it for some matches and then do it for others.
We let the bald line rules match happen later.
Oh, God. Garcia and Cole went for 15 minutes.
Yeah. But, actually, I was like, wow, this one was actually shorter than the rest of them. And I was shocked about that.
You're going to have to tell me about it. Because when I see Cole, bro, I check out, man. I'm so bored.
Oh, man.
This is the next Shawn Michaels, apparently. What they were
telling me. I almost pulled that with the Jericho match, but I didn't think that you would be happy with me.
Nah, this is my bathroom break match. I went to go get some snacks. Came back. I think my stream died too. So I have that. Dang, if I can talk tonight, Mike, I have that as my excuse of not watching this match. But yeah, man. Supposedly Daniel Garcia is a made man. He had that TNT title run that nobody saw. That nobody saw. He was a champ for 3.5 months, Micah. He was never on Dynamite. But apparently he's a made man, which, I'm calling BS on. The only reason he had that title is because he needed or TK had to probably put that in the contract when he gave him a big deal so he wouldn't go to NXT. But I'm just telling you right now, Daniel Garcia isn't that guy. He will never be that guy. He's bland. And, I don't think Cole's much better, but at least he's not Daniel Garcia.
Well, tell us how you really feel. Yeah, I don't refute any of your claims. I don't see it. I haven't seen it. I won't see it because it's just not there. And I'll just hit the bullet points.
The fans ain't there for it either.
No, and that's what I wrote. I put on there clear difference between Daniel Garcia and the big stars. This is the worst TNT title run to date. It's up there for one of the worst AEW championship runs of any reign that anybody's had. I don't remember the last match he had. I don't even remember who he beat for the title.
Wasn't it Jungle Jack?
That's right. Yeah, I did not remember that.
Yeah, they buried him on Collision, bro. Nobody watches Collision. You think we're gonna watch Collision for Garcia?
Yeah, he's definitely not a draw, and I don't see it changing. The people didn't care because they had been here for 3.5 hours up to this point.
Bro, it's people in the basement that make me sick because they say a lot of people say, "Oh, Garcia's run on Collision was so much better than Punk's run on Collision. They've been having great shows weekly with the luchadors." Bro, I don't care how many luchadors you put on the card. I don't care how many dances Garcia does. I don't care how many banger matches he has. What Punk did in those 2 months on Collision is and will always be better than anything Garcia has ever done. Ever.
And will ever do.
And will ever do, yeah.
Yeah, I really hadn't even seen any praise for him since he won the title. Not that I can remember.
Go to the basement, bro. They are praising the Spring of Collision shows, the bangers, with the likes of Gravity and the Beast Mortos and Daniel Garcia and his trilogy with Adam Cole finally coming to a crescendo in this 15-minute long banger. Man, get out of here, man. We're 4.5 hours into the show. This shouldn't have been on the card. This should have been saved. But if they love Collision so much, this should have been saved for Collision. This should have ended on Collision.
Yeah, I wrote that I can't buy these guys as main eventers, even Cole at this point, and it makes the TNT title feel like so much less when you have guys like Fletcher and Ospreay and Takeshita and Omega vying for the other belts. And then you look at daggum Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia, and it looks like the light heavyweight title. It looked like the cruiserweight title.
Hey, bro, they were telling me that he was the next Shawn in 2018. I almost got caught up in the hysteria, man. The mass hysteria. I almost got caught up in it. But now I'm waking up, rubbing my eyes, and I'm looking at what I'm looking at right now. And yeah, Vince was right. That's all I'll say. Vince was right.
I just don't. I almost could buy that. Like you said, I almost fell into it as well. But like, what?
What's he done?
I don't know. What happened? This is his first title in AEW. He got that Ring of Honor tag title, but this is his first title in 4 years.
But it's not even like that he's that much great or that greater than. Dang, if I can form a cogent simile here, Micah. It's not that he's that much better than anybody else as far as wrestling ability goes. But his mic work is supposed to stand above everybody else's, right? I haven't heard it, and they don't give him a chance to talk on the weekly shows anymore. So what does he do?
He's just there holding the belt that's way too big for him.
Yeah.
We can move on. I would like for you to look at something from this match, because there was one point where Cole drug Daniel Garcia on top of the stairs, the steel steps, and he hit some move that I think he was going for, the one where they like kind of drop, they have him up in a suplex position and they like drop him on their knee.
Okay, yeah.
Like head first. I think that's what he was going for, but it didn't land at all. Like Garcia didn't even hit the steps. He didn't hit Adam Cole's knee. He just kind of like fell over in a heap. And even then, was it intended to be a brain buster on the stairs? Because it looked like he was going for Adam Cole's knee. And if he was going for Adam Cole's knee, then what sense does it make to climb to the top of the stairs? Just odd all around. Yeah. And lastly, can we not have to hit guys that weigh less than 250 pounds with 5 finishers, please? And thank you.
Oh, they hit a lot of them in this match?
Yeah. Lots of Panama Sunrises. One that Daniel Garcia didn't even rotate enough to get Adam Cole on his head. He literally fell like
on his
sandwiched. Yeah, they just fell flat backed. Yeah, it was not a good match.
Did Garcia at least gyrate his hips?
Oh, he did. He matter of fact, he tied his legs up around Cole's while Cole was belly down.
Hold up now. You telling me he gyrated in Cole's face?
Well, not in Cole's face, but on his backside. He was giving him back shots.
Hey, I bet that got the biggest reaction of the whole match.
It did.
Yeah.
quite literally, it did.
Yeah.
Next up, though, we got two 30-minute bangers to break down.
For
the International Championship, Kenny Omega versus Ricochet versus Speedball Mike Bailey.
We ain't talking about Bailey yet, bro. So I'm interested to see your opinion on old Speedball here.
Can we call him Speed Bailey Mike Ball? I think that's a much funnier name.
Okay, all right. Tony probably heard that Speedball was available, and he thought that they were talking about another Speedball.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, there you go. Saw that online. Can't take credit for it. Thought it was funny.
I'm interested by him. He's a little small, but he has a look. It's not like a Brock Lesnar, like Kurt Angle look, but just he's different. Something about him is different, and that's compelling to me.
He's small.
He's
very awkward in promos too.
Well, I can't speak to his promo ability. I have to admit, I think this was my favorite match of the night.
Really?
Actually very much enjoyed this. I don't know if it's because Kenny is away from the Bucks now. I find myself enjoying Kenny Omega recently. I don't know if it's everything else has become so much worse there that Kenny's stuff looks so much better, or if maybe the Bucks are just really that bad.
I think it's the latter there, buddy.
But Kenny, actually, I find his matches compelling. I don't think they are so egregious. It's not as bad as his ones in Japan where they have 15 finishers and the kickouts. Yeah, he'll hit a couple V triggers here and there, but I enjoyed this match. Speedball, a couple points. I did pop for them slapping Ricochet's bald head. I know that they're going to overuse that spot and it's not going to be funny anymore.
They did it tonight on Dynamite, by the way.
Yep. Okay. Well, right there. I took your fortune teller bit for one joke. There was a moment in the match, you'll probably remember early, Ricochet had the headset and Speedball kicked him square in the jaw. His stuff actually looks really stiff, and maybe it is, but it looks good.
Yeah, he lays it in. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of it.
Oh God, no. No. So for that, I have to give him credit. Even if he is small, his stuff looks like it hurts, and that works. He is small, but he's not Daniel Garcia or Adam Cole's size. And his style is much more interesting than theirs because they just are technical wrestlers, or they parade themselves as technical wrestlers when really they just don't know how to work a crowd. Speedball is that vein. He's not a crowd worker, but he hits hard and it gets pops. So for that, I think he will be a solid addition to AEW. There were some contrived spots here: the double pin, the double crucifix, the double backslide. I hate when they do that stuff. You like that?
Yeah, I did like that. I thought that was innovative.
I think it's innovative, but I hate when they do it back to back to back. It makes it really fake. It's fine if they bust out one 10 minutes in, and then 15, and then 20. But back to back like that, I'm like, okay, you guys are working together.
Yeah, two of those pinning combinations I've never seen before. So I did enjoy that. But this went on for a while, Mike.
That was my complaint. Like always, it should have been 25 minutes, and it went 31. And it really drug at the end when they were all in the ring. I don't know if you remember specifically when I'm talking about, But
no,
man,
I was in real time, bro. Like watching it, I just feel the crowd just because they seen all the kickouts, they seen all the finishers in this match and all night, and they've been in the building for 5 hours at this point. Like, can you imagine being there live? Like, bro, just please go to the finish. Well, you say they should have went 25 minutes. I think it should have went 15, man. They went way too long. They kicked out of everything in this match, Micah.
yeah.
Everything. At some point, bro, we got to take this home. Like, why do we have this? You don't even hear the crescendo because the crowd is just so numb. They're just standing there looking at them. Like nobody's popping, nobody's making nobody's saying chants, and nobody's cheering, nobody's booing. They're just standing there watching them.
And this was also not the match to have right before the main event because, like you said, this is a long match that is a crowd killer because of how long it is. This is something you open the show with, not something that you put right before your main event, unless you're going to make it 15 minutes long.
Yeah, maybe it's just me watching it, bro. But I was the last third of the match. I was just, man, please go home. I'm ready to go to bed. It's 11:30, man. I can't do it. Please.
One last thing. I don't know how much you were listening to the commentary here. Tony Schiavone was absolutely the worst commentator. Like, I could almost give him the award right now.
Water is wet, Micah. We know this.
That and just, oh my god, this is the greatest triple threat I've ever seen in my life, guys. Wow, bro. Kenny Omega, the diverticulitis, guys. Come on. It's just that. The entire time. It's just glaze. AEW has we really have the greatest fan, guys. They are up on their feet for this just magnificent triple threat. I've never seen a better triple threat in my life. He's like Donald Trump, almost.
He's Tony Khan's surrogate, bro. It feels like I can just hear it in his voice. He doesn't believe any of this. But every match is great. Every moment is great. Every show is the greatest show they've ever done. And these are the greatest matches. And this is the greatest pay-per-view we've ever put on. It's every single show. Everything's great.
And if the boy cries wolf, and he keeps crying wolf, eventually, nobody's going to believe him anymore. And that's where I'm at with Tony Schiavone. Everything can't be the greatest thing you've ever seen because that implies that something has, like, being great means it has to be better than something else.
It seems like, I'm pivoting, Mike, doing the weave here. But Tony Khan always says after these press conferences or media scrums that they're on the greatest string of shows they've ever done. Like, okay, so if every show is the greatest string of shows you've ever done, everything's a hard reset, the feeling has been restored. Why has the feeling been restored 7 or 8 times now? How many times are we going to restore that feeling?
How can you restore the feeling if we restored the feeling 2 months ago?
Great. Yeah, we're already great. What do we need to restore? We've reset so many times, but we're great.
Well, speaking of things that we probably need to reset.
Oh, God.
The main event, Ryan.
Oh.
For the AEW World Championship or the Celestial Silver Briefcase. It's like deal or no deal. This could be the AEW World Championship, or it could be $0. You know, the best way that I can describe this, the main event, AEW World Championship, Swerve Strickland versus Jon Moxley, is, you know, Disney in 2008 came out with Iron Man, and they went on this just run with amazing superhero movies, and it revolutionized the movie industry. Superhero movies became the now, like, other movies started model their, plot lines and stuff after, like, superhero stuff or multiverse. That's a big thing going right now. the best way that I can describe this is how Sony saw that and said, "Oh, let's make our superhero movies too." And then they released Venom and Craven and
Oh,
Madam Web, and it just was like, poop from a butt put on movie screens. And that's what this was. It's a Sony movie. It's the Sony version of a Bloodline rules match.
oh man, the mud line.
The Bloodline, 100%, man.
Okay.
And I don't know any other way to describe it. Like, WWE did it, and they're the Disney. It worked because you had top guys. But, like, bro, can you imagine if freaking Gilbert ran out there at WrestleMania 40 and tried to interfere? Because that's what the Young Bucks were, man. Like, no one wanted to see this. The most prototypical Young Bucks fan in the front row was like, yeah! And he was like the only one cheering for him.
Yeah, the sickos online, bro, have convinced themselves that this is great long-term storytelling that they're doing here. So yeah, man, you know what? The Death Riders program will continue until morale improves. I don't know how putting the two worst main event acts you have ever put out together, I don't see how that's a win for the fans.
Oh man, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of missed the first half of that because I was laughing about the Death Riders. The Death Riders storyline will continue until morale improves.
I was saying that I don't think putting the two worst main event angles you've ever done together in one main event angle, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think that's listening to your fan base, which is what Tony Khan said at the press scrum, the media scrum, which is a joke, by the way. All those journalists in there are jokes. But he was saying, and I don't have his comment pulled up, so I'm just doing this, off the dome here, Mike. But that he listens to the fan base and he makes pivots when pivots are needed. I think at this point in time, this is where a pivot should have been had. And let's run through the list of things that's happened in the last month leading up to this pay-per-view, Mike. The discourse around Triple H and black wrestlers have been circulating online. We haven't really talked about it. We don't really know how to talk about this on the show. But the Swerve and Booker T debacle, that's happened. Swerve making the rounds on Vlad TV, that happened. Mox's title reign being poorly received.
Which I do want to interject. You want to talk about journalists being jokes? Vlad TV is he's up there.
He's garbage. Yeah, he's garbage. Mox being poorly received by the fan base. Swerve being at all those big time events, like he was at the Sixers game. I think he was at a Phillies game too, if I'm not mistaken. And AEW fan base as a whole, Micah, the sickos, the sickos pleading for Swerve to win. This was an obvious alley-oop for Tony Khan to pivot, right? Swerve loses in a typical run-in that the Mudline has been putting out. And, bro, it pains me because I loved Ambrose. But he is completely just cancer in this main event title picture. It's just so uninteresting. Hate it so much. This match was boring too.
Yes, slog. You want to talk about the Jericho match being a slog to get through? Dude, this was no better.
Yeah. And it's not like I'm a big Swerve fan. I'm not at all. But you had to pivot in this situation. You had to put the title on. But no, Tony Khan just he's going to keep his head down and he's going to continue to book the Mudline, Moxley, Yuta, Claudio, and the rest of his merry gang. He's going to book them like shoot fighters, and they're going to run in all these matches, and they're going to win all these matches leading up to, is it All In? That's their stadium show coming up.
Yeah.
They're gonna have a big match with. I'm sure Moxley is not gonna defend the title at the next pay per view. They're probably gonna have like an Anarchy in the Arena match, which whatever. But they're gonna have a big match at All In, Mike. Do we get the sickos version of Mania 39 and Moxley beats Bruv in the main event?
Oh my
For another
god.
year? Can you picture that?
Bro, if Moxley is holding that title out of All In, we might just have to,
It's canceled. We're
yeah,
covering Evolve.
we might have to take it out like Old Yeller, man. I don't know what else to say.
We can cover Evolve, man. They got some good guys. They got the Swipe Right guys. They got Jack Cartwheel. He does the flips.
Cappuccino Jones.
There you go.
That's Taz's gimmick. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say that hasn't been said about this or we've said about Moxley. He is, I'm just going to say this because I saw the headlines that, Jim Cornette says that Jon Moxley is the worst wrestler in wrestling right now. And everybody laughed then and shared the headline and shared the quote that it was ridiculous and this really proves that Cornette's off his rocker. And I'm not exactly trying to be here to say the one that like Cornette is right, but he was about this. Jon Moxley is the worst wrestler in professional wrestling right now. He sells nothing. He doesn't lose. He has the dumbest gimmick, and he is at the top of the company that is... Jon Moxley is a... Jon Moxley is a gust of wind to a fire. He is a bucket of water to fire. Because AEW can do whatever possible on the undercard. And if this kind of garbage is what ends, this is the feeling you have after you watch the show. And that's the problem. It's the greatest movie you've ever seen. And then you realize it was all a dream at the end, and now you feel like you've been spat in the face at the end of the movie. I don't know what else to say, again, that hasn't already been said. I'm going to take a line from Ibu because, he's coming on the show next week. This was a page ripped out of 2019 WWE. This was not what anyone wanted. The fans have very much let the company know that Jon Moxley is not the direction that they want to keep going. And what do? Middle finger to the fans, middle finger to the people there in the arena, middle finger to anybody trying to get over. Jon Moxley is who we're going with, I guess because he has, I don't know, flight logs about Tony Khan going to Epstein's Island or something.
Come on.
I mean, like, what kind of dirt does a man have to have on you to keep putting him in this kind of situation? That was a joke, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think Tony really does that kind of stuff. But I'm saying, does he have, he's got to have some kind of blackmail on him at this point. What's left?
I think he just loves Moxley, and he trusts Moxley that his ideas, what's best, and he pretty much is just hands off with a lot of guys in the companies, a lot of main event guys. I think he does that with a lot of people on the show, Micah. He's hands off with supposedly with Mercedes' his stuff. He's hands off with supposedly Swerve gets a lot of creative control in his matches and his program. So maybe Moxley is just one of those guys that he just bends over backwards for and will do anything for. And I mean, say what you want about Tony Khan, but he is a very loyal guy, and he will stick by you no matter what the fan base is saying about you. And Moxley wins again. So yeah.
I think he's bending over backwards and forwards for him.
Hey.
I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little too harsh, but at this point, I just don't know what else to say. We have talked about it for so long on this podcast that Jon Moxley stinks, and that this isn't what they should have done with the world title. And it's like, you know, I get people in the comments on like TikTok and YouTube, and they're like, man, you know, Moxley is he's really good. Like, you're just an AEW hater. Like, bro, you just hate AEW. And that's not at all what it is. I hate bad wrestling. I hate stupid decisions, and I hate when there are clear options for times to people to go over, and they never hit it. They did the same thing to Swerve whenever him and Keith Lee had that match with the Acclaimed at All Out. I think it was 2022. The Acclaim was over, and they wanted them to win that night, and they didn't pull the trigger, and they put the belt on them 2 weeks later, and it sucked. And they're gonna do the same thing with Moxley. And I tell you what, if I'm wrong, I'll eat the biggest crow and call Moxley the greatest wrestler in the world. But it's not gonna be that big of a deal when somebody beats him, except for the fact that he's no longer the champion anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't see the value in pairing the Bucks with the Death Riders.
No, I didn't even really touch on that. Again, if you listen to the pod, you know my feelings on the Bucks, and why would you, like you said, two negatives does not make a positive in this situation. No. You don't take your two worst main event angles and put them together in hopes that something would work.
And they left the show when the Death Riders were pouring bleach down Brian's throat and bagging his head. They left the show and started shredding documents, and then they just fled into the night, Micah. And then the next time we see them, they're helping the Death Riders. What's the problem with Swerve? What did Swerve do to him? Did we miss something here?
Well, and another thing not to mention, the fact that guys like Ospreay and Omega and guys like that are completely void of this feud. You know, this hostile takeover of their company. The other main event guys don't even mention it or care. So that's another aspect into why this whole thing is a wash.
Yeah, and why didn't Aubrey storm the ring and restart the match? It seemed like Swerve was up and at him right after the match too. He had time to cut a promo and build up a match with Booker T.
Yeah, tell Booker T to F himself.
Yeah, he's clearly building up a match with Booker at All In, right?
Yeah, you would hope. But Ryan,
well, I got my money on Booker.
100%.
Wait, hold up, Mike. Was this a tribute to Triple H and Booker T at WrestleMania 19?
Oh God! Oh, they could only hope that would be the excuse that they have for this.
Yeah, you pedophile. That's long-term storytelling.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, we did this for Revolution. We're gonna do it for Dynasty as well. The best match on the card what do you think that was?
The best match. Let me scroll back through. I'm trying to remember what happened in the show. Man, gotta pick a winner. I guess the Colt FTR 6-man match was probably my favorite. But then again, I won't remember that match. Maybe a month from now. I remember the aftermath. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if that was your favorite, that counts. But
thank you
for the rating.
I matter.
Yeah, you matter, Ryan.
For
the rating, which you gave Revolution a dud, and I don't see you rating this much higher than that.
No, I gotta go dud here too, man. Because the main event, man, it fell flat, and these matches could have been on Collision. 70% of this card could have been on Collision.
I agree. And this, like I said, this is the most filler AEW pay-per-view of all time. I've got to give it the dud as well, which I think is the first for me in AEW. I don't think I've ever given them a straight dud on a pay-per-view.
One more thing, Micah, before we move on. You don't need a 5-hour pay-per-view. I can understand back in the day of AEW, the earlier days, they only had like 4 pay-per-views a year. So maybe you want to get as much as you can on the card. But when you got 8, 9, 10 pay-per-views a year now, these shows don't need to be 5 hours.
And they don't need to be with pointless matches You know, a 3-hour pay-per-view is perfectly fine. And everybody's selling point for AEW has been, well, the weekly television isn't great, but the pay-per-views are amazing. Well, now that the pay-per-views aren't amazing, what do you really have at the core of this whole thing? That's what I would like to know.
You pedophile. Just say you like 20-minute long promos. You don't like real raps.
Just say you like acting. Just go watch a movie, bro. Lastly, just real quick before we get out of here, Monday Night Raw. We had the Jey Uso promo, which I thought was very, very good. I thought it was different in what this feud needed. It's become personal, and it was relatable. You know, Jey talking about having to tell his mom about why his twin brother was hurt in front of him. Yeah. You know, I hate that the fans were being absolute tools and just saying yeet after everything, which I think is some of what he's cultivated as an audience. But
he's calmed them down. He calmed them down a little bit in the promo. It wasn't as, egregious as it usually is. I mean, some of the fans were doing it, but that's gonna be at every wrestling show. You're gonna have some bad apples.
Yeah, he was trying 100% because you could see him like waving them down. But
he was.
I thought this was great.
Passionate promo.
Yes, and it, like I said, it was relatable. It was real. It like Jey had genuine like emotion on his face that was readable. It wasn't Tiffany with the recited lines like we were talking earlier. And this is what this should have been from the jump, not the Alpha Academy and all that. And they've kind of made that work because Jey was like, I was afraid of you and you did this and it wasn't really working. It was, you were just stalling, but now you've really ignited a fire in me. I get that. That works. But like we talked about a couple weeks ago, they've been in a holding pattern for a lot of this. Whereas now, my interest has increased tenfold in WrestleMania of what it was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, and I love when guys actually sell their emotions in their entrances. Like when something that traumatic happens to you, you don't just come out yeeting everywhere and doing your normal entrance, celebrating with the crowd. You don't do that the week after something like that happens. You come out dressed in all black. You got your funeral yeet glasses on. You don't yeet after every word you say. He actually sold that. I like that. That's one of the reasons Seth Rollins. I know we bury Seth on the pod all the time, but Seth, he never sells anything. Like something will happen, and the week after he's coming out, I am a revolutionary. I am a visionary, and he does all his dancing around, and he just doesn't sell the emotion. Jey sells the emotion, and that's one of the reasons he got over in the Thunderdome. That's one of the reasons he's main event Jey Uso now. You forget because he does all the yeet stuff that he is actually one of the best promos in the business today, like by far.
I don't know that I can coast. When he's being serious, yes,
that's
this,
what I'm saying.
that's
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can see that. I think it leaves a bad taste in my mouth when I see him do the other stuff because this is what I want. You know what I mean?
But that's what got over though. The emotional stuff with Sammy and the emotional stuff with Roman, the emotional stuff he had with Jimmy. Though that's the stuff that got him over.
Yeah.
So he can do all this. This is his bread and butter right here. When he has something to be passionate about. And Gunther sold this well too. Give Gunther some props too.
Yeah, 100%. Even though he did kind of like SpongeBob, but I think that's why I wanted this though, because like you said, Jey has had these great stories, and I wanted this to be that way. I didn't want it to be Yeet Man gets his opportunity. I wanted it to be Jey Uso gets his opportunity. Maybe that's what we're getting finally, and I knew that somewhere in there a great story could be told with this. I think now we're finally getting it, but this is Jey that we should get. I think he could be a very relatable babyface on the level that like Cody is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree as well. This WrestleMania build where it is so spread it's spread so far out. That's hurt the build so much, man. Because if we just got the regular 6-week Mania build instead of the 10-week Mania build that we're getting this year, we could have got the Jay and what they did the last 2 or 3 weeks with Jay and Gunther and Jimmy. We could have got that, and we could have skipped out on all the filler pull apart brawls that they had for a few weeks in a row. We could have skipped all that and just got what we did the last 3 weeks instead of all the filler we got.
They need to bump Mania back up. I don't like it being late April. It has made the television a lot different and not in a positive way. And I know they slated Royal Rumble and all that back, but it still just felt like it threw everything off. There were so many weeks where, I mean, we were clamoring for stuff to talk about. That's why we started the WrestleMania thing at the beginning of the show. But
yeah.
Needless to say, next week we've got a big week, so we'll have Ibu on. We're gonna have that. Should come out Monday, Tuesday at the latest if everything goes off like I'm hoping. So make sure you're tuning in for that. I'm gonna put that out on all our socials. Ibu will as well. So it's gonna be a very fun episode, something a little different from the Scoop Slam podcast. And then that weekend is WrestleMania, so make sure you're locked in for a TikTok. We're going to be live both days, hopefully, for WrestleMania Saturday and WrestleMania Sunday. And then the next week, obviously, we're going to have the WrestleMania review. So a busy couple weeks for us here at the pod. But thank you guys for listening. I know it was a little bit of a longer episode today, but it's just that time of year for us. Make sure you're sharing us with your friends. Thank you for listening. Check out the YouTube. Been putting all the stuff there as well. Take care of yourself and have a good one.